My story starts at the beginning. Um, I'm what you'd call an oops baby. My mom was 17, and my dad was the son of a preacher man. So, oops. Anyway, just by the very nature of my birth, um, you know, being born to parents so young and so naive, and really totally not ready to take care of themselves, let alone a kid, really got my journey in life off to kind of a rockin' start. So, my parents tried to make it work. They got married, tried to play family, but, like most of these kinds of situations, it didn't really work out. There was a lot of fighting and uh, just, immaturity going on. So, when I was about two, they got divorced, and this split, it kind of led me on two different journeys. The journey with my mom was pretty colorful. uh, because she was so young, it was almost like we were growing up together. And we moved around a lot. I think like 35 times or so in like 20 years. So, we went through some different roommates and different kinds of relationships, and it was pretty hard at times, just being a kid and not really ever settling or putting down roots. And but it was at least interesting. With my dad, it was a little more difficult, and I think dads are, they're harder in general, you know, um, just by the very nature of the title, dad of the job, by the intrinsic need that every person has to, be protected by their father. I think the expectation for them to be strong and to put their kids first is really high. And my dad wasn't prepared for that. He was young and he was going through a phase in life that most young men go through, but it was different is that he had a kid, me. And so I would see him on weekends and every once in a while during the week, but it was kind of hard, being so obviously not number one in his world. And I think what intensified these feelings was around that same time, about seven or so. I was left alone with a teenage boy at the pool in my dad's complex, and what transpired wasn't really pleasant or good, and it took me a long time to sort and understand. Um, but taking all this stuff into my teenage years was pretty difficult. I never really got into drugs or sex or anything like that. For some reason, I just knew that it wouldn't be helpful or constructive. So, but I do think that I struggled with depression without even really being aware of it. I remember feeling heavy all the time and draggy, and just would go back and forth from really being really stressed and angsty to like totally numb. And I remember forcing myself to go on roller coasters just so that I could like feel something, feel feel anything. And a lot of times I just felt numb and bored. And like honestly, seriously, when you're like a million feet in the air, about to fall to your doom on a free fall ride, it's totally not the normal response is to be bored and numb. So yeah, I guess you'd say bottom line, I came from like a broken home, and I was pretty broken. But the cool thing about God and the cool thing about this life is that nothing stays broken, and nothing is wasted. And it's kind of like when you break a bone, and then you go in for surgery, and they fix it, and then they cast it, and they give it time to heal. And by the time the cast is off, and you regain all your muscle, your once broken bone is stronger than the bones that were never broken. And for me, that's totally been the case in my life. I've been through so much and been broken, and because of that, I'm able to endure and to understand things that I never would have been able to before. And I'm able to talk to people who are going through what I've been through, and confidently be like, dude, okay, I know this sucks, but you don't have to stay in that suckiness. There's a way out, and I can say that confidently. And I've been able to do that. I've been able to relate to people, to help people, to turn all the bad that's happened to me into good. And that's really the poetic beauty of life. And that's what we're meant to do. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, okay, life isn't all of a sudden easy as pie or anything like that. It's still hard. I'm still in the healing process. I still have things that I carry from my past that I have to work through daily. But so does everybody. And but I've seen the good out of all the bad, and I've seen the beauty come out of the ashes. And honestly, sometimes that's all I've got to cling to, but it's enough. It's enough to get me through those really hard times and to lead me upward and onward into a life of love, rather than a life of like anguish and anger and choosing to stay stuck. But yeah, so we'll see. I've got a lot of life ahead of me. Um, but I've got a sneaky suspicion that everything's gonna be good. Even when it isn't. But yeah, so I guess we'll see.